And welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce, and that may not be worth so much, but it's all I got. And if it's enough, come on in. So today we'll have some of this and some of that, and then get back to some of this. And honest, I'm not sure where we'll end up. I do know there's enough stuff out there making me pretty angry. I'm going to try and avoid some of it. I promise I'll try and avoid some of it. All right, there is no avoiding this week, the very first of the Republican presidential debates. What's funny is as I record this, it's still not known who's going to be on. Fox is hosting, they've said they're taking the top 10, and that's going to be based on 5 national polls as of 5 p.m. on Tuesday. And so, you know, I golf and I watch golf, and so my question is this. In golf, to make the cut, it's often something like, all right, the top 70 players and ties. So what happens if at number 10 they're tied exactly? Will they allow an 11? Or what if there were 3? Would they allow an 12? Anyway, this picture is from 2 weeks ago. It was the June 1st cover of the New Yorker magazine, and the drawing is called Suiting Up. It was drawn by Mark Ulrichsen. It shows the boys in the locker room getting up for the contest. June 1st was the date, and of course that would have meant it had to have been drawn sometime in May. Now there are 16 name declared candidates. This shows 8. There's twice as many. And notice too, oh yeah, Hillary's spying in, but the biggest news back in May, Donald Trump is not in this picture. He's still rich, he's still a bully, but he's still high in the polls. I don't think he's going to last forever, but nevertheless, he's not in this picture. Now, here's a cartoon. This was by Joe Heller, and I love this. This is just from a couple of days ago. I remember, and I'm sure you do too, to go on some rides at the amusement park. You had to be so tall, and maybe you stand tippy-toe or wear thick-soled shoes. Mr. Heller takes that and adapts it. And I love a couple of these. I especially like Trump's tall hair. That's why he's tall enough. Jeb, because of his family. And best of all, I think, is Chris Christie, you know, the traffic cone hat. 4 years ago, the Republicans had plenty of clowns in the clown car. Mitt Romney, not one of them, but lots of people in the Republican Party didn't like Mitt Romney, and they were begging, Chris Christie, please get in, please get in. He likely would have won by acclamation. Now, this year he is in, and he may not be on the stage. He may not poll in the top 10. What a difference a bridge makes. Anyway, I think it would be very good theater, though, if Governor Christie is in a debate that Donald Trump is also in. I think it would be great theater because they're both thought of as bullies, and New Jersey is not New York, but you know what I'm saying? So, another thing I hope for is that, probably not in the first night, but I do hope the clowns out themselves. There probably are some serious players, but for now everyone is just shouting to get attention. No one is shouting louder than Donald Trump. All right. You know what's really troubling? It may not make a difference whom we elect in 2016, and it pains me to say that. There is still hope, but it also may not matter. And I'm speaking, of course, of the House vote just over a week ago, the GMO labeling. It was pushed through by Republicans, and it is beyond belief. It's not yet gone into the Senate, so, you know, we still have hope. But it would forbid, if you don't know this, I've talked about it, but it would forbid your state or your community from requiring GMO labeling, never mind that the rest of the world sees this not only as sane, but reasonable. Duh. They don't want you to have the knowledge of what's in your food or your children's food. Now, if you don't particularly care if you're eating pesticides and carcinogens, I'm cool with that. Eat them up, yum yum. But if you want to prevent me from even knowing, being able to find out, and that's what they've done. They have shamelessly prostituted themselves to big ag, big farm, big chem. And I've said before, I don't even know why I am mad, other than the injustice of it. My life is more than half over, and by choice, I've got no kids. I've got nobody to worry about. By the way, it's not like we're unbalanced on this. Over 90% of us want GMO labeling. Despite that, 90%. Despite that, they passed it. So I said it may not matter who wins. It was pushed through by Republicans, but it wasn't purely partisan. And the Democrats are not just lying and basking in the innocence. Hillary Clinton has long-time ties and associations with Monsanto. They're the makers of Roundup. Current Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack, this is the Obama administration, remember, he doesn't like the fact that the European Union doesn't particularly see Roundup as benign. And it's allowing their members, these are, sovereign nations, to ban GMO foods. He doesn't like that. And he's saying, you can't inject consumer choice into the discussions. What? But they don't care. They don't care. They don't care. They'll use focus groups to find out what pushes our buttons. They'll put the money in. They'll trip our triggers. They'll keep us from thinking too very much. They'll put on American Idol or Game of Thrones or something. And we'll just keep on sucking the opium pipe. I would urge you to read a couple of Ken Follett novels, Pillars of the Earth and its sequel, World Without End. Follett is a British writer. He's probably best known for the novel Eye of the Needle, which became a movie starring Donald Sutherland. Now, these books take place in the long ago, 12th century. The first one does. The sequel is 100 or 200 years later. Much as I was surprised by my enjoyment of Downton Abbey, for very different reasons, I nevertheless was shocked I say, to discover that I love Pillars of the Earth. Again, this is not the type of thing I would typically like, but I found it a thrilling page turner. But here's the thing. They really get your empathy going. Now, I'm empathic as a rule, but this really gets you in. And as often happens too with historical novels, real people pop in and out. But, this tapestry that he paints, he makes the hopes and the dreams and the wishes and the aspirations and the tragedies of these fictional characters become very important to you, to me, to us, the reader. And of course, that's what Dickens did so very well. I would urge you to read these, though, for a different reason. Back then, the aristocracy, the earls and the dukes and like that, they had everything. The little people had nothing. And no one cared if they got hurt, or if they were sick, or if they died, or they were cold, or thirsty, or hungry. And of course, hundreds of years later, that is what Dickens wrote of. And then, 100 years later again, John Steinbeck wrote about that kind of culture in The Grapes of Wrath, and In Dubious Battle, and Cannery Row. There was a time, though, a brief shining moment, as it were, post-World War II and lasting for 50 years-ish. There was an unspoken agreement between business and workers. Yes, bosses made lots of money, but not bajillion times more money than workers. And if you did a good job, at your work, the company was really glad to have you. They wanted to make you feel part of something, so that you were proud of doing something, so that you would do a good job, benefiting the company, benefiting yourself, and all that seems lost. We seem to be headed back to a kind of feudalism. Monsanto makes poison, they feed it to us, they don't care, they buy the politicians, and in what was once the American dream goes down the toilet. We made stuff once, and we made good stuff. It didn't matter if you were in the office of a radio manufacturing facility and you were an accountant, you still did a good job, because overall that contributed to the good product. We made good stuff. We kept our customers happy because they liked what we made. They'd buy more of it. And that meant the company made money, and that made the stockholders happy. It was win-win. Now, let's say you're young, looking for your first job. They interview you. They like you. They tell you they've got this nice position. It's nice profit sharing. There's good benefits. There's a steady path of advancement. They'll show you how your pay goes up, and you work your way up to the third or even the fourth quartile for the position. Woohoo! What they don't tell you is that when you actually get close to the fourth quartile, find a way to get rid of you. And after a while, employees now figure that out. So they start to care less about their work. And even if they don't actively sabotage, they become indifferent. Newly hired, they were willing to bleed for the company, but having discovered that the company doesn't care, they don't care back. Companies used to increase their profits by being better. Now they increase their profits by being cheaper. The value is less. An immediate, obvious one is making the coffee can smaller and charging the same. Back in the day, Chrysler Corporation made high-value vehicles. They had gauges instead of idiot lights. The hoods had springs instead of props. They unfortunately also had a rough patch of very ugly cars, late 60s, mid 70s, and their sales fell off. Uh-oh, we're losing money. I would have suggested invest more in, get rid of the design team that made the ugly cars, sure, but invest in a better car. Give greater value, not less. Make an earlier change to disc brakes. Put in better radios, better speakers. Instead, they made the very common and almost always fatal mistake of cheapening the product. Short term, profit, but people figured out. And then the people buy fewer cars. Fred had a Dodge Diplomat. This was after they fixed the ugly. And it was gorgeous. Nice red velour interior. Really seemed great. And a couple years later, I helped them change a taillight. And we discovered that to get the red lens off, we just had to pry it off. There were no screws. It was just putty, essentially glued in place. And you know what happened to Chrysler. They're now owned by Fiat. But it's not only big stuff, it's little stuff. My mother had a stainless steel blender, used it for decades, wanting a second one. She got an expensive brand. It was no longer stainless steel. But not only was the thing plastic, so were the gears. And they sheared off after, just after the 1-year warranty. I have here a box of cereal. It is lighter, it's about half full, but this cardboard is so very thin, you cannot hold it with one hand without collapsing the cardboard. Well, when it is full and you're holding it, it is impossible to hold in your hand and not flex the sides. And you turn some of the cereal inside, a little more every time you handle it, into dust. Unappealing, that dust, but they don't care. And that is our trajectory. Our leaders used to stand for something. I imagine some still do. But by and large, they seem only to stand for getting themselves elected, and the cost, even if the cost is consigning our health and our children's health and their children, consigning our health to a cesspool, sure to cause cancer and who knows, third eyes. They don't care. Even that cost is not too high for them. Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. Or wait, I can let others do it. All right, welcome back. Remember, you can watch all of our episodes at tinyurl.com/Bruce Channel. You can write to us at thebrucechannel@yahoo.com. So, back in time. In 2012, I thought that Mitt Romney was an empty suit. Why? Because he was always backpedaling from strong stances that he once had. He was for women's right to choose. You may or may not agree with that, but that was his stated position, but then it wasn't. His signature legislation in Massachusetts, the universal health care that Obamacare was modeled after, that was his signature legislation, was now no good because it was a Democratic administration that put it in. By the way, that entire universal health care is a Republican idea. Anyway, there are good Republicans, but they viciously rip themselves apart by other Republicans and not the good ones. Let me read to you an actual transcript. This is from a Republican debate in January 2012. This debate was on a Sunday morning. It was live on Meet the Press, and questions could be submitted through Facebook. It was unique. All right, so the night before, Mitt Romney criticized Governor Jon Huntsman because he'd served as ambassador to China from 2009 to 2011, during the Obama administration, the Democratic evil guy. Quoting Jon Huntsman, he said, "He criticized me while he was out raising money for serving my country in China. Yes, under a Democrat, like my two sons are doing in the United States Navy. They're not asking what political affiliation the president is." In reply, Mitt said, "I think we serve our country first by standing for people who believe in conservative principles and are doing everything in our power to promote an agenda that does not include President Obama's agenda." Think about that. Think about that. That's a much longer sentence than the one I'm going to quote to you. But it essentially says the same thing. What is President Obama's agenda in January 2009? To get the country back. Remember what it was? We were in the worst recession since the Great Depression. Banks and brokerages were failing. We were losing, firing, laying off over 800,000 jobs a month. And the fat guy, who calls himself a patriot, says, "I hope he fails." The president's agenda was to make the country better. And that's what Mitt Romney seemed to be criticizing. If he fails, the country hasn't done well. If he succeeds, we've recovered or at least on our way to it. I hope he fails. I could easily have voted for a man like Jon Huntsman, who saw duty and served. He essentially got out. He said, "This is craziness." I will be watching to see if there are any real, principled individuals on that stage Thursday. I'll be watching to see if any of them say anything like, say we're talking about the Iran deal. If they say something like, well, maybe the deal is bad, maybe it is good. It sure beats a war, and if there was no deal, a war someday almost seems certain. So, I don't know, do I like it? Maybe. I'd have to say let's at least give it a chance. Or will they get in lockstep and condemn it? That's what I'll be looking for. Is there anyone there who actually can say something beyond talking points? Meanwhile, the NFL training camps have opened their doors, and purely out of habit, I still watch the NFL. It's purely habit. Growing up in a football town, team, pretty good football team, you throw the football around with your dad and then with your buddies, and then you go watch your team do well, and oh yeah, Ohio State has done pretty well too. So yeah, I'm going to watch. The inculcation runs very deep. As I alluded to on a previous show, whereas in golf the players call penalties on themselves, and in tennis they always fuss with the umpire, in football, even when the guy is down, he'll try and sneak the ball forward. There is no honor. So I watch. It's purely habit. Paul Warfield would score a touchdown and hand it to the officials like a gentleman. Randy Moss scores a touchdown and he moons the crowd, figuratively. So it's purely habit. It's every bit as habit-forming as cocaine. Oh, and Tom Brady's appeal vis-a-vis Deflategate was not reduced. Everyone expected it to be reduced to probably 2 games. Still a 4-game suspension without pay to start the season, so Tom and the NFL's Player Association filed suit in federal court. And things like that have always baffled me. He wasn't drafted. Well, yes, he was drafted in the NFL draft, but he wasn't forced to join the NFL. So it's always made me wonder if you belong or join an organization and the rules say that, in this case, the commissioner can make a ruling, and when you join our organization, you know this, and you agree to these terms, nevertheless, the Players Association filed suit in federal court in Minnesota. And those that know say it's because they have had success there before. But the NFL outflanked them. They had them off at the pass. They filed in advance to have the suit argued in New York. The judge agreed with that, saying, huh? Minnesota? Why? Mr. Brady's employer is in Boston, the New England Patriots. The Players Association is in Washington, D.C. The NFL is headquartered in New York. Why do you want to have it in Minnesota? Go on, get out of here. Interesting. All of which is more evidence it's a world gone mad. So, did you hear the news about Brazil? They'll be holding the Summer Olympics there next year, August the 4th through the 22nd. And we'll get back to the news in just a moment, but has anyone considered the fact that August in the southern hemisphere is winter? Anyway, back to the news. It turns out it's pretty uncommon in Brazil to actually treat sewage. Oh, the drinking water is treated, sure, but I have been told that in India, everything just always smells of sewage. Apparently, when you land at the airport in Rio, it smells like that. Now, there's a big lagoon there, and that's where they're going to be rowing. It's not rowing, it is called crew, I think. Well, they've got oars in the water, right? I would call it something like rowing. Nevertheless, this big lagoon that they're going to be racing in, it smells like, again, the polite word is sewage. Yet another reason I'm glad I play golf. So look, what I said about our country going down the toilet, I meant it. I just didn't mean that it's the worst place on the planet. I mean, look, there's North Korea and there's Brazil. All right, so unless you're Donald Trump, I do hope your upcoming week turns out to be the best one you've ever had.